Greetings. My name is the Reverend Dr. Kingsley Samoa, and I have the privilege and honor of serving as Secretary to the Global Christian Forum. The GCF brings together church leaders from 4 pillars organizations, and they are the World Evangelical Alliance, the Pentecostal World Fellowship, the World Council of Churches, and then the Roman Catholic Church through the Pontifical Council for Promoting Christian Unity. And at this forum, what we do is we commit ourselves to pray for one another, pray for our churches, to listen to each other's faith stories, what God is doing in your life, what God is doing in your family, in your community as a whole, in your church, and also to look for opportunities where we can collaborate together in what God is doing in the world. And we are using this forum during this time to interview church leaders from all over the world. And most of our interviews are around the ministry during this time of COVID. But today we have a special guest. We have a special guest in the person of the Reverend Dr. Anne-Cathy Graber, who is actually a member of the GCF committee, International Committee, and has been giving the Harding Meyer Award for Ecumenism. So we're going to congratulate her and ask her questions about that award. Sister Anne-Cathy, thank you very much for being with us today. And just introduce yourself a little bit to all of us.
I'm Anne-Cathy Graber, Franco-Swiss, and a Mennonite itinerant pastor. I'm a Protestant theologian, and I am teaching in the Jesuit faculties in Paris, where I'm co-director of the chair of ecumenical theology. And I am involved in ecumenical work, including the Global Christian Forum and also the Faith and Order Commission of the World Council of Churches. And also I have been living in a Catholic community which has an ecumenical vocation, the Chemin Neuf community, for 37 years now. I am a consecrated sister. And so I am both a pastor as well as a religious sister. It's possible.
Well, thank you.
It isn't very common, but it's possible.
Yes, both, yes. There is a lot of different backgrounds you have together, in nationality, in Christian denominations, and being a consecrated a sister and a pastor. So thank you very much. But this award is named after Harding Meyer. Who is Harding Meyer?
The Harding Meyer Award for Ecumenism is an award to encourage the involvement and theological work in ecumenism. Harding Meyer was a leading figure in the ecumenical movement in the past 50 years. He had a decisive influence on the international Lutheran Catholic dialogue. Many methodological approaches of contemporary ecumenism can be traced back to him, such as reconciled diversity or differentiating consensus, and so on. These principles, Harding Meyer argued, enable the various Christian families to move forward in seeking reconciliation and church unity without sacrificing their own distinctive identities. And this point is very important, according to me, without sacrificing their own distinctive identities. And the expression of Harding Meyer, the main expression is unity through reconciled diversity. This expression is very important. It's not only about doing unity by diversity, that's already very good, but maybe it is a bit too easy way, too lazy to do it. Indeed, there is a risk of doing unity through diversity. So without the word reconciled, adding to our differences. In this case, with Harding Meyer, there is in this case, without reconciled, there is no transformation. And for Harding Meyer, the important point is not only through diversity, but through reconciled diversity. And this unity goes further. It calls for work on our diversities so that there won't be an occasion of separation. That is to share our differences, our diversities, but also to expose them to the work of reconciliation and transformation. It's what Harding Meyer did in an amazing way. And this theologian is also one of the promoters of the differentiating consensus. His methodology, among others, enabled the signature of the joint declaration on the doctrine of justification. This joint declaration has now been signed by 5 churches. The award aims to continue the legacy of Meyer's innovative work, especially regarding these 2 key ecumenical principles. I don't know if I am very clear. I don't know.
Yes, no, this is very helpful because these are very, very sophisticated principles, but they are very helpful. I like what you said, that we enable the various Christian families to move forward in seeking reconciliation and church unity without sacrificing their distinctive identities. In a sense, what we have in common is very, very important. We are not saying that stop who you are and how you do your ministry and your theologies, but there's a lot more we have in common that we can all come around and we can do things in common to a world that is looking on and seeking that we will be able to witness to the truth of the gospel that we have, witness to truth, to justice, to peace, all the things that we hold very dear, that we can do it together without sacrificing our distinctive theology. So that is very helpful. But you wrote something that was giving the award. What did you write? What was your special contribution?
The award rewards my work for my PhD, and the subject was about Mary, and more precisely Mary, a study comparing John Paul II's Redemptoris Mater and Luther's commentary on the Magnificat in light of ecumenical dialogues. Maybe it seems a bit unusual for Mennonite to choose a subject about Mary. In fact, in my tradition, we don't speak a lot about her, and Mary isn't an unusual subject in dogmatic theology. But I have discovered that this subject isn't a peripheral subject in theology. Marian theology focuses in all the theological challenges, especially the complex question of human mediation and participation in the mission of Christ. So
that is absolutely true. God is big enough to do what God wants to do in the world, and yet God invites us to be part of the mission. And what is our role? What is the role of God? It is always something that we are seeking out through prayer and through our willingness to obey, to see that. So that is absolutely true in terms of it is a very, very important subject. You have a very incredible background, as you have said, as a Mennonite, who is in this order, which has a lot of different denominations, and they seek for and they pray for Christian unity, the Chemin Neuf order. And so I'm sure you have a faith story there. You have a story that brought you to where you are. Share a little bit about your faith story.
Yes, maybe I can share with you only 3 verses of the Bible. And these 3 verses of the Bible were fundamental in my life, in my pilgrimage of faith. When I was a child, I was 7 years old. It was the verse where Samuel says, "Speak, O Lord, your servant is listening." It's very simple, of course, very simple. But the incredible good news for me as a child was that God is interested in children. And today, this word is real also for the ecumenical dialogue, to listen to the voice of another person and to learn how to understand his language. And the second verse is the prophecy of Simeon when he gives Jesus back to Mary in the temple. He says, he will be a sign of contradiction. To welcome Christ as a sign of contradiction is difficult. I don't know what is the translation in English, but in French, it's like this, a sign of contradiction. It means that Christ is also the one who contradicts my logic, my way of seeing and doing. But this contradiction is necessary because it avoids closure and allows us to cross the frontiers, the borders that are too closed. And the third verse, which was a foundation for me, is the commandment to love. You will love the Lord, your God, from all your heart, all your soul, of your strength, etc. And your neighbor as yourself. And your neighbor as yourself. But these last words, when heard today in an ecumenical context, have taken on a wider sense for me. To love my neighbor as myself is also as an extension to love the church of the other as mine, as my own body. It is an invitation to do for the church of the other as I would like it to be done for mine. So to love the other churches as I love my own church. So
very, very interesting Bible verses that have shaped your faith story. I think you're right. The sign of contradiction, Jesus Christ as a sign of contradiction, that is a mystery that we will always have to learn more about, especially how that enlarges who our neighbor is and enlarges and expands our ideas of who it is that is different, that we need to embrace, that we need to bring, because God has loved them and because they bear in themselves the image of God. And that is something that is very, very timely all over the world as people are trying to, how do we live with someone who is different, who looks different from me, who speaks different from me, who, and so that is very helpful. And also ending with the words of love your neighbor as yourself. The church and the world itself has gone through a very significant period, this COVID-19 pandemic. And some places are getting over it, moving on to what may look more like normal times. Other places are still very much steeped in it and not yet over it. Are there any lessons that you think the church, global community, or a local church or a follower of Christ can learn from this experience?
It seems to me that it's important not to give an answer too quickly. We all have been touched by our vulnerability and our fragility in this time. And one of the answers the churches could give is this: we don't have to be afraid of vulnerability and fragility. And churches have to stand close to vulnerability and fragility, not to run away from them. And they can become, or they can be a safe place, a safe space to welcome this vulnerability and fragility. And the answers will come later, I think. We must first welcome this vulnerability unconditionally and then take care of it.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Lots of people all over the world are going through what you have said, the vulnerability, the fragility of life, and the uncertainty. Nobody knows what next month is going to be or the next 2 months. And you are saying, let us take a deep breath. Let us stand here. Let us acknowledge it and let us work through it. to the next step. Let us not be eager and rush through it and not learn any lessons from it. So thank you very much. Congratulations, and thank you for sharing your story with the whole family, the Global Christian family. Really, really appreciate it. And God bless you on the work that you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and God bless you too, of course. And thank you for your welcome.